Welcome to the Thankful Palette. My name is Tracy Herbner, and today we're going to be painting this cute spring bunny. I hope you'll join along. Use a 10 by 10 canvas, like so. So let's just get you positioned here. Okay. And let's get you right way. Awesome. Okay. So we are going to start, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to put in our sky and our grass area and also fill in our base colors. So the first part is going to just be the base colors. So we are going to start on here, and basically what I'm going to do is just freehand the pot, and I'm not too worried about lines because we'll clean them all up. If you're not comfortable freehanding, you could certainly trace these on. But I just want to give myself some rough estimates. And I'm just using a pencil, and if you make a mistake, you could erase. But I'm not too worried about it because we're going to paint over it. So, all right. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with the sky color, and I'm just using a pale blue with some white mixed into it. And what I'm going to do is, you'll see my palette from the sample here. I have some white on there and I have some blue. So I'm going to get a scruffy brush that looks like this. And it's already a little wet, but we're going to just tap it into water, and you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of water in your brush. And I'm just going to pounce it on here with my white, and I'm just going to kind of go like so. You could use a flat brush with this, and I'm not going to worry too much where the bunny's going to go. So you could see from our sample here, I'm just going to kind of not go there. It's okay if I go in or whatever, because then the bunny will go over it. And I'm going to go down to about, I'd say 3/4 down with the blue, and then we'll fill in with the green. So, and again, just random patterns. And I'm okay if it's whiter in some spots, because again, as you look at the sky, it's not a perfect solid color. And again, you want to do your sides as well, unless you're going to frame it. I'm just going to go like that. Feel free, if you have any questions, to drop me a question below in the comments. I'll do my best to watch that and answer them while we're live. If not, I will go back and answer them afterwards. And you can see as I'm going over the tracings, I'm not too worried about that. Like I said, we'll clean it up as we're going along. Again, just get your edges. I think I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my bottom half, and I'm going to do it the green, and I'm using a olive green And all I'm gonna do for the first part is just basically pretty much color in. So I'm gonna use a flat brush. I'm gonna use about that size. Again, wet your brush and then take most of the water out. And just go. And I'm not too worried about the edges because like you saw in our sample, we're gonna put some grass over it. This is just to have some background color in there. So as you're painting your grass on, you don't see through to just a plain canvas. And again, make sure you do your edges so they're finished. There I didn't go up far down with the blue, so I'm going to want to just touch that up a little bit. And I need just a little bit more blue and white on my plate. You could use a palette. I just use paper plates. I just find it's easier. They also sell a palette paper, which I have used, but I find a paper plate works just as well as anything else. It's easier to clean up too. So I just want to go in there, and you got to be careful when you're going back in when you have a wet color, but. And I kind of like the texture of things going through there. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to have to hit this with the blow dryer quickly just for time's sake. So always helps to have a blow dryer handy. So bear with me here. So next we're going to move to our pot, and the reason being is I like to do my backgrounds first and then go in and add detail, and I want to make sure that I do the pot with the detail so that when I'm adding the bunny's butt and paws on, those details are behind that. So for the pot I decided to use a turquoise, and I'm just going to grab any brush, and I like to use a bigger brush that'll cover most of my surface. And you could do this one of two ways. You could go ahead and just do the whole pot without the bunny's feet on there, or you could go ahead and pencil the bunny's feet in and paint around them. Whatever you'd prefer. When I did the sample, I drew the bunny's feet around, and I painted around. So I think for this time I'll just show you how to paint that in there so you're less worried about making a mistake. So basically just put the band in there of the pot. And the only thing is doing it this way, you want to make sure that your paint is dry before you go and put the bunny feet on there, or you are going to make a mess. So again, a blow dryer comes in handy for that. And if you're not in a hurry, you could always just wait till it dries. You could also paint your pot any color that you want. Of course, this would be your own painting. And when you're doing this, you want to make long strokes because then you'll see less brush marks. And I just always start at the top and work my way down. just a little bit more paint. And feel free to sprinkle this video with your friends. That helps a lot. It's much appreciated. I'd love to see your finished product as well. If you're not part of my free painting group, please go to the top of this page and click to join. I'd love to see your finished work. Plus, that's just a great way to connect with some other painters. Okay, so there we have the pot. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I am going to dry this before I go ahead and shade it. To do is I'm going to shade it with white around the rim and around the pot, and for that I'm going to use an angled brush as soon as I find one. It's just an angled brush like that. You could use a flat brush. I just prefer to use an angled brush, and basically you want to get your brush wet and then dip just this pointy end into the white, so you can see it's like that. And what I'm going to do is just go around the top like this. And these are the details that make your paintings come together. Don't be so hard on yourself when you're doing it. Oh, it doesn't look like what I think it should look like. Give it time. Let all the details come together. And give yourself some grace in the process, because every time you paint, you get better and better. Again, I'm just going like that. Again, constantly dipping my brush in the water and just in the corner with the white. Signs as well. And if you're watching, please let me know in the comments so that I know you're here with me. I'm not too worried about the bottom because we're going to cover that up with the grass and such. Okay, and like I said, I'm using a 10 by 10 canvas to do this, and you could find these at Michael's, Hobby Lobby, Amazon. Again, just dry it a little bit. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to work on our bunny butt. Okay, and basically I'm using a dark gray for this. And I'm going to use a scruffy brush just like we used for the background, just like this. Just called Scruffy. And again, if you have any questions on the brushes, again, feel free to comment below and I'd be glad to post a link for you to find them. Okay, so basically all we're going to do is go ahead and give him a butt, and this is going to be a little bit of a process. Just go around. Give him the shape that you would like. And again, not too worried about it going down over to the pop, because as we all know, fur is not one length. Okay. And I want to leave enough room here for his little tail. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Then what I'm going to do is, again, blow dryer is my best friend. So what we're going to want to do is put his little poof on the top, and we're going to use white for that. So just standard white craft paint. Okay. And again, just using a scruffy brush. Making a little bit of a circle, and there is a little bit of gray paint in this brush left, and I'm okay with that. Just adds to the shading a little bit naturally. Okay, so then we got to put his paws on, and if you were at all nervous about putting the paws on, you could always take a piece of chalk, just kind of gently outline them like this. And again, those marks will come off if we don't cover them. Okay, so again, I'm just going to take a smaller one so I'm a little bit more detailed. It's just a small scruffy brush into my white. And just put them on there, again, just pouncing like that. And because we're going over that turquoise, we might have to hit it with a second coat. We'll see how it is when it dries. Okay. So let's just go ahead and grab the for the white in the paws just because we did paint over, so I want to make sure it's much more whiter than what it is. Just add a little bit more white on top there. Okay, so we're going to let that part dry and we're going to go back and we are going to go down to the grass. And for the grass, I'm going to use a liner. Brush. And how thick or thin you want is up to you. I am going to use a liner brush like this, and it's a number 0. I tend to like the zeros. So you want to make sure it's wet. And I'm going to put on there some forest green, which is going to be darker than the base and the back a little bit that we used. And not much, just barely. And basically now what I'm going to start doing is just putting my grass in there. So I'm going to go over top and we're just going to layer. So make sure. And I might pull some of the base coat too and put in there, and eventually I'm going to add some white in there. I'm just basically going, you know, just like grass would grow all over. I even think this would be cute if you used a yellow pot and maybe a brown bunny. Feel free to, you know, make it your own. Just make it a little bit taller in some areas. I don't know about you, but I can't wait to see some green grass growing. And it's okay if the blue of the pot is showing out because, you know, it's behind the grass. And then when you're happy with that, I'm just going to take some of the white and I'm going to mix it in with some of the green. And naturally, because it's wet, it's going to pull, which I kind of like the way it looks. Just gives it an added dimension. And again, if you're not happy with it, if it looks too white, you could just go over it with the green again. The great thing about painting with acrylic is if you're not happy with it, you could paint over it. So then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna just take my tip and I'm gonna put down some white flowers. So I clean my brush a little bit and I'm just gonna dab some flowers in the grass. And again, there's no right or wrong placement, just little circles. The other thing is sometimes it helps to take a picture as you're doing this. It's just easier to see. I'm lucky because I could see myself, the painting on the screen. So that just helps look to see, make sure the colors look good together. Alright, so I think I'm happy with that. And then what we're going to do is we are going to go back and we're going to add some flowers because the bunny, of course, got into a pot that had some flowers. So what we're going to do is take a brush and with our green, take a brush, show you here. I'm going to take a liner brush and I'm going to use a 4. And I'm doing that just because you could use a flat brush, but I'm going to use a 4. And again, there's no right or wrong where you place them. I'm just going to kind of go off here and decide where I want to put some sprigs coming out. And you want to leave room up at the top if you're using a smaller canvas like this to where you're going to put the flowers. And again, I always say this, but don't be afraid to turn your work. And you can see if I do that, it's going to make the stems thicker. Do is take my same liner brush and I'm going to use 2 different color pinks. I'm going to use pink chiffon and what is called pink, and I'm going to add some flowers to the top of those. And like I said, same liner brush. I'm just going to rinse it out quick, make sure to get a lot of the water out, and I think I'm going to put the darker one on the bottom. And basically just putting tops on there. And then I'll go back in with the lighter pink. Yeah, let's put one up here. And I'm just kind of letting the edge of the brush make the top of the flowers like that. This one's tilted this way. And we'll put one here too. And I just find that it works better when you don't put the same amount, like an even amount. So I try to put an odd amount of flowers. So I only have 5. And then what I'm going to do is, with my lighter pink, just come back in and give it to some details. And I'm not too worried if like the paint kind of goes into each other. If you don't like the way that looks, you could certainly let them dry or blow dry it and then go back in and add. I kind of just like the way it looks. And again, there's no right or wrong. details. All right, so we'll let that dry a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is go back into the leaves and add a little bit of white with them. So using the same liner brush, just going to go back in with white. Add a little bit more to my plate here. And add some details on those stems. And let's see here, I'll do this. And again, if it's wet, it's just going to make the green a different color. And again, I'm okay with that. If you're not, then leave it dry before you do this. I just like the way, the detail that it gives. It naturally shades it, I think. Thank you, Colleen. Okay. All right, so I think I'm happy with that. So now what we got to do is we got to go back in and give our bunny little pads. So what I'm going to do is take a very small scruffy brush. I think we used this size before, which is just this one right here, and it says small scruffy. And I'm going to use a little bit of gray and a little bit of white. And I'm going to show you my plate so you could see. Just a little bit. And basically, I don't want it to be white because I want it to, you know. And we're going to give this guy too. And if you could see, I just went in there and you could see that it's naturally shaded. If I don't like that it needs a little bit more on a corner, I'll just dip the corner of my brush in there and just pounce it a little bit. Okay. All right. I really hope that you enjoyed this painting. I know I enjoyed painting with you. Until next time, have a great night.